So I first want to start. I'm Mary Parker with the Kansas-Nebraska Convention of Southern Baptists, and so I have other responsibilities, but the one I'm here with you is women's leadership. So I give direction to WMU, to women's ministry, and to women's evangelism. Okay? So I want to kind of get a picture of where we are. So where do you live?
Columbus, Kansas.
Columbus. Do you know the population?
Well, not really. I think like
8,000?
8,000. Yeah, maybe.
Okay. How about you?
Eureka.
Okay. Do you know the population of
2,500.
2,500? Okay.
Cherokee.
Oh, we talked about you in the last class. Let me think. What's the population?
Like 600, 500,
500 to 600. Okay. Sedan. And do you know the population? 1,100. Okay.
Dexter, I don't know. I would say maybe 100.
Maybe 100. Okay. You may
Gotta think
win.
of the issue.
Yeah. Is that the pets included or?
There's way more pets in town than there are people.
Coffeeville.
Yes.
Okay. And what's the population here?
Between 9 and 10,000.
Oh, we have 3,000.
Whoa, okay, you guys have 10,000. Okay, well, we're going to talk about reaching women, and mostly in rural setting, because that's what we are, right? And some of us are going to have a much bigger town than others, especially if you're over here, okay? Dexter, did you say?
Yes.
Dexter, okay?
Henry's candy store. And
Who's
Helium.
candy store?
Henry's candy store and Helium was discovered there.
Oh, really? Yay!
That's what we're big for.
Okay.
Helium.
Helium. Well, you gotta be known for something.
Yeah.
That's good. All right, well, we're going to start off with a fun little exercise, and so you two can be together, and you two can be together, and you three can be together, okay? So one of you has to write notes. Hopefully you have some to write with. Volunteer, yes. Okay, so you've been marooned on an island, okay? Together come up with 5 things that you would have brought with you had you known you were going to be marooned on an island. And it's not individual 5 things, but you have to agree on 5 things, okay? 2 come off right away, because everybody will say Bible because we're in a church, right? And that's the church answer. So we're going to assume everybody has their Bible, and then 2, we're going to assume everybody has their cell phone. So those 2 things cannot be included in your list of 5, okay? Go. Okay.
Yeah, whatever.
Not outdoorsy. One you need your Oh, yes, one of the flint things to make a fire. Yep, a knife. Like flashlight. First aid kit. There's 5.
Are you cheating using your cell phone?
Oh.
Okay.
We
I don't know what it is, but I know
I have a scramble of. No, we have a picture of something.
Okay, are you not there?
Berry trees.
You guys are done?
That was easy.
Okay. Got it? Okay. Now, how many of you assumed, because I did not say what kind of an island you were marooned on, how many of you assumed it was deserted? You did? Okay. Yes? Did you too?
I don't know.
I don't know. things?
That's, matches for fire.
Matches, okay.
One of those water drinking straws.
A rhino straw where it turns salt water into drinking water.
So it's like a water purifier?
Yeah, water purifier.
Okay.
A gun, so we can
Hunt.
A gun, okay.
To hunt for food. Yeah.
Alright.
A blanket. Maybe a boat. To get off the island.
That's awesome. That's the first time I've heard that. Okay, what about you two? Anything different?
We had flint instead of matches,
Okay.
and we had a knife instead of a gun. We also had blanket, and we had flashlight and first aid kit.
Flashlight. Good. And first aid. Okay, what about you three? Anything different?
The only thing we had different was a rope
A rope.
and a pan to boil the water in.
Okay. Okay. Based on that, you think you could survive on a deserted island? Probably not.
We did.
I don't know. I think you did
I need a volleyball.
a volleyball. Nobody thought of a volleyball. You thought of a boat, but not a volleyball. Well, last summer, I felt like I had been marooned on a deserted island in Abilene, Kansas, okay? I moved from Topeka, population of 28,000, to Abilene, Kansas, population of 6,500, okay? Never have I lived in that small a town. So all of a sudden I found myself in a rural setting, okay? My husband became pastor of First Southern in Abilene, Kansas. Now, so I was asked to talk about this topic, and I thought, well, what does it mean, rural? What does rural mean? Because I know what I always thought. What would you think rural means? Country? Small? Limited resources? Okay. So I went to U.S. Census Bureau and saw what the official definition of rural is for them. Rural is any village, town, city under a population of 50,000.
Under 50,000.
Under 50,000.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay? Does that sound kind of like they really don't know what rural is? Yeah. Yeah. So we could maybe send them a report and say, okay? So I brought this Kansas map, and this is an old one. I don't know, maybe it's changed somewhat, but here we are in this area, right? That whole area is defined as rural. You don't have anything over 50,000 in southeast Kansas, okay? So we're going to talk about reaching women who are just like you and just like me now. Rural, though, isn't just country bumpkins, okay? Rural doesn't mean that people just all live in the country or they're all farmers or they're all ranchers, okay? Rural, when you have a town of 3,000, you have doctors and attorneys and business owners and teachers, and you have people that have higher education in the towns of rural settings. So it's not just, women who make their own butter and soap, okay? Although that's kind of popular right now with the younger crowd to make their own soap. But, why did I feel like I was on a deserted island? Well, first of all, there's no movie theater in Abilene, Kansas. Okay? See, some of you have it better than me. Yeah. There's no place to get ice cream after 9 o'clock at night when you crave it in the summertime. Right? Unless you consider McDonald's or Sonic ice cream.
That's why you make homemade.
That's why you make homemade. I gotta get the homemade ice cream maker, though. So yeah, now I've had to put it in the freezer and have it on hand. So our grocery stores, we have two little grocery stores. So Tuesdays and Thursdays I travel to Topeka to the Baptist building to work. So I try one of those days to go into Dillon's, which is a big grocery store, and I just stand there for a few moments and just look all around at all my choices, and then I walk up and down every single aisle. I just miss that store, okay, those options. The nearest city to me is Salina, which is 23 miles, but their population is only 47,000. So they're still considered rural. Isn't that something? But it's a big city compared to Abilene. So I looked at Pew Research, and they said that most rural people have lived there in their town for at least 11 years. So you have long-term. How long have you lived in Dexter?
35.
Okay, that's a long time. Yeah. Anybody else long-term? Just
Born
rural
and raised
southeast Kansas, huh?
I was born and raised here.
You were born and raised. Okay. All right. Okay. They also said that one unique thing about rural people is that they know all their neighbors. Unfortunately. Don't turn your face to the camera. Your neighbors might see you. We moved to Abilene on August 15th. I went into the little grocery store on August 17th. They said, "Do you have a Country Mart card?" I said, "What is that?" They showed me, and they said, "You don't earn discount off of prices, but you'll earn points to where you can get a $20 gift card eventually." I said, "Well, okay, sign me up." They said, "Are you new to town?" "Yes, we just moved here Saturday." "Oh, did you buy that house with the big front porch on 3rd Street? And I'm standing there like, you have got to be kidding me.
Don't go outside.
Yes, actually, we did buy that house.
End of the town, no, we don't.
And as somebody said 2 sessions ago, we live in the Meade Rogers house. So a lot of houses in town are called, "Oh, you live in the Smith house," or "You live in," yes, okay. So we're all rural here, right? So let's think, why is it different to reach rural women as opposed to suburban or urban type women, big city women? Is there a difference? So, huh? Okay, well, that's what I want us to do right now, is what do you think, what characteristics are different or more prominent in a rural setting for women?
There's no anonymity in the rules.
That's a big word for me to spell. Everyone knows each other. Or if you don't know them, you know of them. You know approximately where they live. Okay? What else? How about if I added this and their business? Do you think that's true of rural women?
Yeah.
Okay. What else? What do you find about rural women?
Multiple homebody.
Huh?
Homebody.
Homebody?
They like to do things at home or go out and take in the movie or
Okay. And you said
multiple hats.
multiple hats? Multiple hats. Okay? And somebody else said something over here.
I'd say they're more used to limited resources.
Limited resources. Uh-huh. I was with a woman last weekend in North Platte, Nebraska. She lives in a town of 60. Okay? The nearest Walmart is 90 miles away. So if something breaks or she wants to do something, she's very resourceful. She said she knows how to put things together that you wouldn't necessarily put together. Okay? What other characteristics? Let me tell you a couple that I have learned, and probably the hard way. Okay? They have a voice, and they want to be heard. And rural women are very loyal, and community focus. Okay, so this church had about 20 people, and they would come together once a month on Wednesday night and have a business meeting. So those 20 people came. All decisions were made by these 20 people. Everything was acted out by these 20 people. Okay? Is that familiar?
20.
Oh, okay. Less or more?
Oh, less.
Okay.
Way less.
You have less. But it's more of a community. We're in this together. We're going to do it together. Where the church I came from was 300, and we had multiple teams and 2 services, and you didn't have that. Everybody worked independently, and yet everybody knew the vision of the church, but it was a different mindset. So they want to be heard, and they want more. It's more of a community-focused kind of approach to life. We're all in this together. They like to all be involved in decision making, that kind of thing. One other thing I did find about rural setting is that the quality of education for children and teenagers is declining in rural settings, and mostly that's because of the lack of finances school districts have to have all of the computers, laptops, iPads, all of that kind of stuff available for their kids to use. So some of you are nodding your heads, so I assume you have seen that too. So there's only one county in southeast Kansas that is showing growth. All the other counties are in a decline. But you know what comes with the decline? What's growing is alcoholism, drug addiction, and suicide. Okay? And so how do we, in our churches, how do we reach women? Like us, our community, our neighborhoods, our small towns, how do we reach women to bring them into the church, to bring them into faith, to just minister to them? Okay? We're going to talk about that for a few minutes. About 10, 15 years ago, I kind of went on this journey. I have seen organizations or programs start in churches, and as soon as they start, they're like a can off of a shelf. It has an expiration date on it, okay? So WMU kind of started in 1888, and it really built and grew strong, and we had WMU organizations all over, and some of you maybe don't even know what that means, Women's Missionary Union, so we had GAs and Mission Friends and RAs and all that kind of stuff. It's okay, hang on. And so that in the 80s kind of became my mom's thing to do. It was too much work, okay? So women's ministry started taking up. And so women's ministry was all about being. You need Bible study, you need to grow and develop as a Christian, where WMU was kind of all about doing. And so here's this women's ministry that started coming up, and then now we're in this phase of, well, women's ministry is for my mom. That's her thing, okay? And so this new group, this new age, is kind of wanting to become as they do. So they want hands-on, organic kind of involvement with ministering to women. And so that's where I have been finding myself on this journey, is that I'd much rather go somewhere to a strip joint and try to witness to strippers than I would sit in a classroom and hear a video-based Bible study. Okay, that's just me. But that's also kind of the movement right now. So it gets really messy and really personal. So I don't think it's necessary. How many of you have a women's ministry program in your church? You do? Okay. What's it? Okay, so you have WMU. What have you got? WMU?
A women's Bible class.
Okay, a women's Bible class. Okay. So if I say we've had women's ministry or WMU, and I say let's shift our minds to ministry to women, that seems for me to take it out of the church setting and into our communities. I still think Bible studies are great, just designed for women. I think that's great. But where I have a problem is with groups that go from this Bible study to the next Bible study to the next Bible study to the next Bible study. Because what I learned in college is you gain all this knowledge, but you haven't learned a thing until you've applied it. And so until you get out in your community, in your area, and apply what you're learning. If you're learning about loving your neighbor, well, go do that. Go love your neighbor. How are you going to do that? Go do it. And that's what we just talked about. Okay? There's been some issues where people have started women's ministry programs, and that hasn't even worked. The last class session, they said that it's not working in their churches anymore because rural women tend to have more distance to travel, and they're very busy because of part of that distance, or they're seasonal because they do raise crops, and they have to, I'm not going to go there because I don't know anything about raising crops. Or taking care of cows. I touched a cow once in my life. That's as close as I've been to one, okay? So what do? And I think it's time that we have to start thinking completely outside the box, getting very creative and letting things. So you're in your towns, whether 3,000 or 100, okay? You're in your towns. You pretty much know what's going on around the town, right? So let's say there was a house fire and somebody's house burned down. What could you do to minister to women in that setting? Well, if there was a wife or a single mom or a woman in that house, you could call your neighbors. Wouldn't have to necessarily be your church people, but your neighbors, because some of you live in towns and go to church in another town, right? So you could call your neighbors, you could start a food drive, or you could start collecting something that could be useful. That's ministering to women. Instead of just inviting them to come to a Bible study at your church. See? So it's seeing a need and meeting a need.
Our little towns do that. And
Your little towns do that.
Fortunately, most of our people in our towns belong to some church.
Is that right? Are you two in the same?
We're only about 30 minutes away from each other.
Okay. So you would say that most of the people in your towns already are involved in a church.
I would say at least 40, 50%.
Okay. Because according to Pew Research, the rural areas in America are the most unchurched regions in the United States.
We had at one time, they're not active. We have 3 churches in our town.
Okay. I think what's unique about Southeast Kansas too is that you're so close to Oklahoma and you have that heavy influence of Oklahoma, and so Christianity, going to church is maybe something that's been part of your culture for a long time. Would y'all agree with that, or am I just okay? So maybe that's not necessarily true in rural Southeast Kansas as it is in other rural parts of America. So when we think about getting ministry to women started or expanding our ministry to women, what are things that you've been a part of now? Somebody said you have Bible studies just for women? Did somebody say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Okay, what else might you do in your church, through your church?
We used to do stuff for like stay-at-home moms, or we'd have a morning where the kids would all play together.
So you have play dates.
And there was like it was sometimes spiritual, but sometimes just practical, something for the moms. You know,
Okay.
There was like a teaching element.
Sounds kind of like MOPS, but maybe it
Yeah,
wasn't
not as
formally
organized,
called
but
that.
yeah, right.
Okay. I'm just gonna put it here, mothers of preschoolers, if y'all have heard of that. Wasn't necessarily MOPS, but it was a similar kind of outreach, okay? What else do you do?
Yeah, sewing days.
Sewing days. And what do you sew?
Blankets, fur blankets, different items for like the Midwest pregnancy.
Okay, so these things are sewn to be given to the community. Perfect, okay? What else do you do with women's, ministering to women?
Well, I guess one of the things that are, women on missions does is, during Thanksgiving and Christmas, we, help out in the family for their Christmas holiday dinner.
Okay? Okay? So these are all, I've heard this all around Kansas and Nebraska. Those are things that women do in women's groups in churches. So if you think of your town, and I don't know your towns and your communities, but what needs are there for women in your areas that aren't being met by city resources or, okay? You don't have city resources.
No, probably not.
Yeah.
I would have, but I'm not speaking in for Dexter, but I'm thinking of like Winfield. And I don't know if it's really something, I mean, we've really been dealing with a lot of issues with parents not being parents.
Okay. So, could your church offer a Saturday morning or something and bring in someone who has some type of authority on parenting and how you parent? And maybe you have parenting preschoolers, parenting elementary school, parenting teenagers. Would that draw women in your rural area to come?
I would doubt it, and I don't think we would have enough people that would be able to do something.
To do something like that, okay? So some of the problem is having the number of people to pull off some of the things. Okay, here's what and I don't mean this, I am not being rude, but rural women are busy, right? Some of it is just because of their environment where they live, they might have long distances to travel. But also, this is women are women are women, okay? We get busy with the things that add value to our life or to our children's lives. So what can you offer? What can you say we can minister to these women that will add value to their life? That's where we have to start thinking creatively. Because I'll sign up for, my daughter was in dance classes. I took her to dance class, stayed, watched, brought her home. She was band in high school, and so I went to all the home football games and all that stuff just to watch her in band and dance. And so I did those things that were of value to me. So that's where we have to discover where is something that is of value to a woman in your area that she would actually make time for in her schedule.
In Winfield, I would say it would have to be something. We would have to, as a whole, all the churches would have to put together and do it.
Okay?
Because, like in our church, there's just not enough that are able to do.
Okay.
So we'd have to,
it would have to be something that we pull from all the churches. And
So-
even, I mean, we're only like 15 minutes from Winfield from Dexter, 15-20 minutes. So it would even have to pull in possibly from Dexter's area.
Okay, so has this happened in the past? All the churches come together?
Now every time the churches just in Dexter go together, they all get
Aggravated.
Because that placement goes over here. Well, I don't want those balloons on that table.
Really? Okay.
Kind of like the carpet in the church.
Okay. Okay. Well, maybe you can try one more time.
But,
You know?
and then the other problem is that most of these parents are a lot of parents.
Drug parents. So, what community resources do they have to help with learning about addiction or how to break addiction?
I really never
Haven't looked. Okay.
I'm gonna guess there's not a whole lot.
Well, that's where I think we have to be challenged today. We can open up our church doors and say, we're going to do a Bible study. Come watch the video, come discuss. But we probably aren't going to draw a lot of those real women to that kind of a study. Okay? You wouldn't draw me because that's just not what I like to do. I mean, yes, I study the Bible. But I don't like to just be in a Bible study without having a hands-on component to it. Okay? So you all said you had WMU. Is it well attended?
Not anymore because we're so small, we don't have enough people come.
Okay. Okay. So let's talk about this from a different perspective. Instead of just women, what are your churches doing? Do you find your churches are in survival mode or really trying to reach out into the community to bring people to Christ? Trying to reach out, okay?
We do an upward basketball program.
Love
And
Upward.
that, I think that has just revolutionized our church.
Okay.
We're busting in the seams, we're having to find other ways to use the facilities because we're at capacity.
Okay.
But there's still more potential for growth, and I think a lot of that stems from the upward basketball program, like we were talking about, because that adds such value to our little communities, to those that wouldn't necessarily have the chance to play basketball or, and that brings in people who never set foot in the
In a
church.
church.
Otherwise.
Okay.
So,
What could a group of women from church do at an Upward basketball game day? Saturdays, game day. What could you do to minister?
right. There's 1,000 things you could do.
Yeah. So just narrow it down to one, and then do it and make a presence known. Maybe if you're going to be having a Bible study, you have a little cute flyer or something that you can hand to women as they come in. Because with the Upward program, they're meeting in a church setting. So you don't have to be shy about Jesus,
Right.
you know? So maybe you could sponsor a snack or a water or something table where they could come and get a bottle of water or get a package of crackers or whatever it might be. So think about what's already going on in your church, and you got a prime place right there to minister and get the word out, to have tracts or whatever you guys might use, or have just a banner that says want to know more about Jesus, and see if people will stop and talk to you and have people there that can share their faith. Okay? That's a great example of what's already going on in a church. Yeah. My husband was all about Upward at our previous church, so but it was soccer, that was his thing. Okay, what else? Is there anybody else have something already going on in your church that, yeah,
Well, at the beginning, March, we were block party
okay,
at the church. We did everything. Okay, for our vacation Bible school. We've been doing a block party, but this year we're gonna do a day 3 club swim for everybody. We're not pulling just the whole town.
okay,
And that's where we do our registration for vacation Bible school.
perfect. And so as women, what piece could you have in there? Now I know when we're getting small church, the women are teaching VBS
Right.
as well as handling registration. But are there some that aren't that could still do something else to minister to those?
Well, what we have set up when we do our registration type thing is we have people in the church, because there's a lot of older people, and we want them just to come out and sit down and visit with everybody.
And visit, perfect.
And last year, the year before, we actually had people become very, they've been here for a couple of years.
Good.
And they started with vacation Bible school.
Yeah. And VBS is usually in the summertime, right?
And we're now down to where we're the only church doing it.
The only church doing it. Okay. What if, and who knows, you could go to businesses in town and ask for donations, but if you provided every kid that registered a backpack for school from your women of whatever name of church, Jefferson Street Baptist Church. Okay? How many kids usually come to VBS?
Between 50 and 100.
Okay, it's a lot of backpacks. They don't have to be the fanciest, right? But you can still give them a backpack for registering or something. So you're adding value to that family because they're going to have to buy backpacks for their kids unless your school system says no backpacks.
Because the town itself, well, we go with a couple of other smaller towns there and do a community drive so that every year the kids, the families go in and have a free lunch, free haircuts, and all their school supplies.
Okay, all right, that's perfect. And so the women of your church can have a presence in that. And it's just something little that, it's a flyer that says, we'd love to have you come join us. We're having a coffee on such and such a Saturday morning. Just come. We're going to have a speaker or whatever you want to do. VBS, if you have the time and you have the people, do an adult class.
We have been the last couple of years.
Okay.
I'm not sure exactly what it calls it. It's like a parenting class.
Okay.
But the first time we've done it, we actually said parenting class and nobody showed.
And nobody should.
So we
Okay.
can get something else.
Okay.
And actually got to it.
Yeah. It's like you're going to offer a class on prayer and nobody comes because they think they're going to have to pray out loud.
Yeah.
So you call it something different. Yeah, that's good. Those are good ideas. What else? Do you have a park near you that you could host a play day at the park or a mom's day out? Or no, it's kids' day out or mom's day out, one or the other. That movie, Mom's Day Out, that's a hilarious movie. Have a movie night at church with just the women.
On the other one that we do is we're partnered with our school system so that we have a movie night every Friday night at the school.
At the school, wow.
And we provide water. And it's a Christian movie, not just anything that's out there.
Good,
Church related.
good. That's good. Okay. Are you two getting ideas over here?
Yeah, but this is a very good.
I mean, our church is survived. We have maybe 10 members.
Okay.
And
And are they all related? No.
No.
Well, that's good.
I think there's only like 5 women in our church altogether. So it's not like we have a lot. And we are literally in the middle of the country. Like, we are 10 miles away from town in the middle of a field. So there's not a park nearby. We're outside of town where we don't want to drive from town to come to our church. So, we've tried a lot of these ideas, but because we are in the middle of nowhere, it's really hard to get people to
Have
come
they thought about moving?
to our church.
Yeah. No.
No. I mean,
So you have to think. Are you Like, would they travel 10 miles to a petting zoo?
Probably not, because I mean,
Most
They
people
have
have the animals.
yeah, they have
Yeah,
their own,
they have
their
animals.
own animals.
Would they travel 10 miles if a quilt class was happening, or a pie baking contest, or something like that? Find something that would.
Yeah, that's what I'm trying to think of.
Yeah.
All that stuff you mentioned, I mean, people do that
without the class.
without
I mean,
class. I mean, it's just.
we are.
We're just.
All right, this is my.
That's what we're trying to
This is
figure out.
my one thing I'm going to say to you. Get so excited about your church that you can't stop talking about it, no matter where you go, because enthusiasm is contagious. And so get your 11 members so excited when they go into town, to the bank, to get their hair cut, to buy groceries, to go to a restaurant, whatever it is. You are so excited about your church, and tell them all, let's be enthusiastic, because it is contagious. And people will say, well, what is going on out there in the country? Okay? So don't think of yourselves as we're too small. Never underestimate your power.
And we just had a community-wide free church meeting last weekend.
Okay?
We advertised, and I'm just like 5 women, we could literally hundreds of pounds of meat. But we didn't have many people. It was free. We didn't charge, we didn't even say anything about any donation. We just wanted to do for the community. And we went to Oklahoma, Missouri, Kansas. We went all over. We did advertising. We did mailers. We did everything. Put in the newspaper. But people don't want to come out, for whatever reason, out to a small country church. And that's the problem. They're more into, and I get it. I mean, I raised my kids in a small country church. They love a small country church. But I understand people who have kids wanting to be to churches because they have more resources and the kids are more actually going to be entertained and all that stuff. Whereas we don't have those resources. We don't have a way to do basketball. I mean, we just have this church yard out in the middle of the field where they plant wheat, soybeans, and all that stuff. It's been there since 1876. We've added on. We've done a lot of stuff. But
Wow. Does anybody have any answers for them? Encouragement?
I mean, we're doing stuff.
Yeah, we're doing stuff, and I think the members of our church are more excited now with the lower numbers we have
Than what
than
we
when we've had lots of people at our church.
Yeah, we work as a team and we're
Yeah.
all involved. Whereas, and like a lot of those country churches are suffering because their members are going off to bigger churches. So we are a community, and it's all for one for all. I mean, we've been there weeknights, weekends, doing everything we can.
So
and
let's.
reaching out. I mean, we've been reaching out and talking to people and inviting them.
Have you ever asked the community as to why they don't come?
So how do you recommend we do that? I mean,
Yeah.
How
Hey,
do
why don't you come out to big church?
like
How do you do
how
that?
do you
when
ask
know what?
them
We're
how
going to
do
big
you-
churches.
Like we know why a lot of them.
Yeah, we know why they don't.
Yeah.
Like
We're-
her and
we're
I-
It's
losing
just
our
we don't have
resources.
the resources to provide the children. Why? I mean, like we know why. We just don't have the resources to compete with some of those bigger churches.
Right, and we have a big church right down the road from us, on paved road, way down the road from
And that's
us.
the other thing. We're on a dirt road.
Yeah, we're on a dirt road. A lot of people in new vehicles don't want to come out on a country dirt road. I mean,
What were you going to say?
Well, we were just conversing with each other because I started out at Maple City, which there's nothing at Maple City. I drove 15 minutes to the church every day. And I know right now, I left because I was not agreeing with what was being preached. And I was not growing. I had got to a point when I was not growing, so I left and I went to another church and I ended up where I am now. But it was still we still had 50 to 75 people. And the thing that I loved about it, and I miss it really bad, is we had service on Sunday morning, we had service on Sunday night, and we had Wednesday night service. And you don't find very many churches that have those 3 services anymore.
Mhm.
But I know now there's people that's driving from Cedarville, which is about a 45-minute drive, and from Oklahoma, and this little church is basically on a country road.
Okay, supposed to do?
Right. Now, the church down the road, it closed its doors last Sunday.
So who's the church? Let's go back there. You are the people. So your 11 people are the church, okay? And so what are we supposed to do? We're supposed to grow each other up in the faith, right? Disciple each other. So if you're doing that, it may be that your church is always going to be small, but it doesn't mean it doesn't have value, okay? So
we agree.
You may talk to Marty out there and, brought him, he's coming to talk, because maybe your church is gonna be, because we had a pastor that was there for way too long, and he finally left. And then we have a young student pastor who's practicing. And we love him.
Yeah.
He's fresh ideas, fresh everything. We love the kid to death. And he goes, maybe your church could be a church where we can, let these students come out and practice.
And practice.
Because you guys are opening to listen and to nurture them.
How far are you from the town?
We're right smack dab. We're probably about,
We're 15, 20 minutes from town.
So is there
I
some
mean,
way that you could do something in the town?
They said they have.
Yeah, we have.
we've
And
done
people, and maybe people don't. People are so busy. Maybe they don't know the church is out there.
Well, true. That's why we decided to do this free community chili feed, and we
And then
went all
they get you
public
started.
on
You
that.
never know.
And then we're gonna do, reach out to the first responders, have a breakfast, and we're doing some other stuff. Trying to get the name back out there so people don't think that the doors are closed on the church just
Right.
because we're out in the country. We have a good group of people. We really do. I mean, these people that's left they roll up their sleeves, and we do all the hats in the church. Everyone jumps in and does something like that.
Okay.
And but it's just getting, like you said, getting more people in.
More people.
Don't give up, because if
Yeah.
you're out there, maybe people just don't know you're out there.
Yeah.
Do you have signage?
Yes.
Good signage?
Signage on the roads.
Okay.
Both highways.
Okay. I don't know about rural America. I didn't look up this statistic, but I do know that most people looking for a church now find it online.
Yep.
So
My daughter's
you're
been
there.
online.
Okay.
Gotta go online.
All right. Well,
And we're just trying to get more ideas. That's why we're here. And
I mean, we're 4 women that are here at this, and that's literally the women that are in our church.
Yeah.
Missing one other woman, but
yeah.
that is,
But
we are here.
We're
So,
here.
Yeah.
good. I would just say, don't lose
Don't
hope.
give up.
No, we're not. I mean,
Perseverance. Rural women have grit.
yeah.
Keep at it.
We're all
Keep working at it.
country bumpkins out there.
Are ya?
Yeah, we're really bumpkins.
And this new pastor sounds like he's got some good ideas.
Yeah.
Okay.
Unfortunately, he's moving on.
Yeah.
Is he? Well, you'll have another one.
Yeah, we'll bring another one in.
You'll bring another one.
He's moving
And
on.
you know, if
Big
that's your
business.
purpose, how wonderful is that? Because you're not just creating disciples, growing disciples in your church, but you're helping send on a pastor who will have had some experience and go on.
Like our pastor right now, he's being commissioned to be a chaplain in the army.
Oh wow, okay.
So he'll be moving on from us.
Yeah, and look at how many people he'll be reaching. Okay? I was going to say a quote, now I can't remember it. It's something about, we see the apple, and we see the core with 5 or 6 seeds, but only God sees how many more apples are in one seed of that one core. That wasn't a quote, that was Mary's version. Okay? Did it make sense? So even if you're small, you still have value, you still have impact, and you just keep at it and
So
keep
we plant the seed or water the seed or harvest.
or harvest it. Right. You may just be the planting
Yeah.
seed. Who knows? Or and I think that's true for all. I grew up in a small church. My dad was the pastor. We had we did this, okay? Because for some reason the military base was on the complete south end of Topeka, and our church, my dad's church, was on the complete north end. But we had a lot of military that came to our church, so when the military attendance was up, we'd be running 60, 70, and then we'd drop down to 30 or so, and then we'd be back up. And so you just keep doing what God called you to do. And it's really all on Him, isn't it? So be faithful, encourage each other. I would say with your description, what you could do to minister to each other is let someone take off for an event and say, you don't have to be here. You've always been here. Why don't you take the night off or something to help them rejuvenate themselves as well. Okay? I gotta wrap this up. Any other scenarios that we want to talk about? Didn't mean to single you two out. Okay? Did anybody else have a comment that I missed? Okay. This is probably what I have to say to you, that don't do what you've always done hoping you'll get the same results, okay? It's not going to happen anymore. You got to be completely outside of that. Mix it up. Try something different. Maybe they would take a drive. I don't know. I'm just being creative here. Maybe they would take a drive out if it was a Saturday evening church and not a Sunday morning church. I don't know. The time of day or the day of the week that you have church, it doesn't really matter, right? Who knows? You might think along those lines, but you got to be creative. Have to have a lot of prayer. It takes a lot of prayer, a lot of faith that God is going to do something. Jamie's message this morning was so good, that the faith can't be guided by our circumstances. Faith has to be before our circumstances, okay? I don't think that was a direct quote either, but it was a Mary's version. So have faith that God wants to do something, and He wants to do something big. His big might not be our big, but it's something big, okay? Every person is of value to God. And so we reach, maybe in 3 months you're going to have 15 people at the church. And that's huge growth, right? That'd be huge growth, okay? When ministering to women, be creative. Look at your town. It doesn't take much to go see where are the holes that they're missing, that you or your church women's group could fill. Can you adopt a school? And even if you go prayer walk once a month around that school, or do something special for Teacher Appreciation Day, and this comes from this church women's group, you can do, I don't know how many of you don't look at my fingernails, because fingernails are not big for me. But if there's any of you that go once a week and get your nails all done, okay. Okay. Get your nails all done and stuff. Well, there's still human slavery going on in the United States, and sometimes it's more so in the rural areas. So if you go in and this person refuses to look at you or converse with you, but will just do your nails, and they act like they don't speak your language or whatever it is, they might not be in control of their life. Okay? So if you go to hotels and the hotel staff, the housekeeping staff won't speak to you. They won't look at you. And sometimes that's the two industries where human slavery is huge right now. And they're not in control. Somebody else is keeping them locked in a house or somewhere and letting them out to make money. They get moved around a lot. And you can say, well, this doesn't happen in my town. But it does happen. It might not be your town, but it's the next one. So it happens a lot. If you have colleges around you, small, Coffeyville has college, Pittsburgh has college, Winfield has college. Okay, who does? Independence does. So maybe you could do something with, do they have international students that come to these colleges? I know Pitt State does. Maybe you could do something special at Christmas for international students. Or if they can't go home, you could invite them to come and stay in your home over the Christmas break. Okay? So look for different ways that you can minister to women. And I'm going to be praying for you because it's hard. Now, if I were talking to a group of women that lived in New York City, I would probably have some of the same things to share. Because when you live in a really big city like that, your job is to become anonymous. You just want to be part of the crowd, dressed in black, walking down the sidewalk. So remember that rural women can be very lonely, and maybe just a phone call or a knock on the door and say, "Hi, I was just thinking about you," or "It's been a long winter. I wanted to reconnect with you as a neighbor," or something. They can feel very isolated from what's going on in the rest of the world. So get out there. It's messy, and it's hard work, and it takes time, but we have a reason why we're supposed to do it. Because as we go, we're supposed to reach people for Christ, right? Okay. Father, thank you for this time. Father, there's so many different church situations here in this room. I just pray that you would, first of all, give encouragement to these women as they lead or as they look at ways they can minister to women. Father, I pray that you will open doors that they will sit back and say, only of you did this happen. And Father, I pray that any efforts they have, that you will bless them, and that they will, again, say, only by God. So go with each one as they go back to their homes and to their churches. And just pray that a little fire has been lit to just keep them going or give them new and fresh ideas. We ask this in Jesus' name. Amen. All righty.